All right, Nuggets fans, welcome into Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends here at FanDuel. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn, at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am here. I am ready to discuss the Denver Nuggets and an impressive win and impressive performance that they had last night against the Los Angeles Clippers. Yes, it is preseason. Yes, it doesn't matter in terms of the overall grand scheme of things. But I still liked it, and I still thought that it was valuable. And I'm going to do my best here to tell you why it matters and sort of convince you why it matters. And Denver showing what they showed is a really good sign for the regular season and things to come. We'll talk about things like 3-point volume and not as worried about the efficiency, especially with a couple of the new guys. We'll talk about Murray staggering and the Jokic and Valanciunas lineup that was played earlier today, or yesterday, excuse me. But first, let's just talk about the game flow. Let's talk about what actually happened. What a hard played game for both sides. You saw that the Clippers, they basically played everybody themselves except for Bogdan Bogdanovic. In their starting lineup, they had James Harden, Derek Jones Jr., Kawhi Leonard, John Collins playing in a big lineup for them, as well as Ivica Zubac. That's a pretty normal base package for them. And coming off of their bench, like you get guys like Chris Dunn, you get Brook Lopez, who looked really good in this game. You get a variety of other guys, including Chris Paul. Bradley Beal did not play for them. He will give them additional lift and some opportunities for sure. So you'll get a couple of other offensive guards in there for the Clippers in the future. But that would help Denver offensively themselves in all likelihood, just because those guys are not tremendous defenders. But I just thought that Denver, the way that they played, the way that they showed up was a really good sign. You had basically two separate training camps for Denver, right? You had the first training camp that they arrived at, and then ultimately they had a couple of games in, like, one in San Diego, one in Vancouver. Okay, a couple of weird spots. It's hard to necessarily get up for something like that. And then you come back to Denver, you practice for a couple of days, then you go back out to LA and you play at Intuit Dome, which, I mean, it's a beautiful arena. There's no two bones about it. Like there's no question. And I wonder if that helped contribute to the feel for them and for the Nuggets specifically, where they're like, okay, this is an arena that we recognize. This is an arena that we're going to play in. We were just here against them in the first round of the playoffs last year. Let's get up for it. Let's go crazy. And they did. I honestly thought, like, look, the plus minus is not everything in this game. There are some things that they could work on. There are some things that they can improve. But in terms of the effort level and in terms of the execution level, I thought that it was really high. I genuinely did. The expectations are, of course, through the roof for a team like Denver. So you want to make sure that, okay, you're shooting well, you're not turning the ball over constantly, you are doing the detail things, you're not giving up as many possessions defensively. But I thought they did a lot of those things. I thought that was a really impressive performance, and there were just a lot of things that I liked. I thought that they matched up. Yeah, Kawhi Leonard got some buckets to go. He was foul baiting up a storm, though. I thought that Denver struggled a little bit with Zubac rolling down the middle of the lane. But what's new? They're probably going to struggle with that consistently in the regular season and the playoffs as well. But the things that they did control, they forced 9 turnovers from Zubac, Harden, and John Collins all combined. They forced 15 turnovers, which was more than they had previously done in the other couple of games. The defensive intensity and the effort and the execution was a lot better. And both teams just felt like there was no love lost between those two teams. So impressive showing from both sides. I got to be honest. According to FanDuel, the Clippers win total, by the way, is 49.5. I think they're a better team than that, especially with the addition of Lopez. You've got a whole bunch of reserves and pieces that you can add throughout the regular season that can just help you get some wins. I think that they are a better team than 49.5 wins. I know that win total, there's a lot of risk built in with the Kawhi aspiration situation, but the more I think about it, the more I think about that the league is just not going to do anything. So if that's the case, or if the penalty is just minor, then they have the veterans all across the board to win a bunch of games. They might win 52, 53, 55 games, which is obviously more than 49 and a half. So I think that's not, it's an interesting bet for sure. But I did like what I saw. And what I'm really seeing here is that this is probably the second and third best team in the Western Conference right now. I think the Clippers are right there, if not the T-Wolves. I think the Lakers still have some things that they have to worry about. But after last podcast, I'm pretty sure I ranked the Clippers as the third best team, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just check that from the banners. Yes, I did. I had Clippers at 3, Nuggets at 2, OKC at 1. So, like, not really a surprise. Like, there's Clippers were really good, and they finished the year well last year. And I know that a lot of people just kind of expect them to fall off. I didn't really expect them to fall off. I don't think that there's a reason for that specifically. So, plenty to discuss on their end that I'm not really going to focus on. But what I did want to focus on was different lineups that the Nuggets were able to get to. And it's one of the reasons why I kind of view this game as a dress rehearsal. I view this game as the one that Denver wanted to show what they could do. And they showed enough. They certainly did enough with all of the main groups that they had. The first one, the starters, they generated great shots consistently. There were a couple turnovers every now and then, but for the most part, like, Cam Johnson just missed some shots that he's going to make in the regular season. Christian Braun had a really nice drive, like with Kawhi kind of guarding him on his hip, and then Zubac's kind of coming out and guarding him, and nice little drive, and then tough reverse layup on the other side. Comfortable handling the basketball, looks a little bit better, looks a little bit more comfortable. Shocker. Who could have foreseen? Aaron Gordon had 18 points. He came back from injury. He looked good, especially with the shot-making perspective. There are still some things, some detail things that I'm a little not concerned by. Concern is the wrong word, but at least watching from an intensity standpoint, from a defensive standpoint, from the overall level of impact. But I do think that he has shown, if this is the kind of performance that you can expect, Denver can trust him to be their leading scorer on a couple of nights. And he just has evolved his game to the point where he's not just the glue guy anymore. He is a well-rounded, versatile scorer. And it's wild to think about with where he was when the Nuggets got him. So good to see from that perspective. Jokic's intensity, I thought, was very good. Murray's intensity was very good. Murray staggered with the second unit, and we'll get to that in just a bit. But that led Denver to play it's just a no point guard lineup with Tim Hardaway Jr. coming in and being the sixth man. And then Christian Braun technically playing point guard. I didn't have Hardaway as the point guard. I had Christian Braun as the point guard in that lineup on the rotation chart. Actually, let me upload the rotation chart so you guys can see it while I talk about it. Basically, Tim Hardaway Jr. came in and he was the first guy. Then you get Christian Braun, Cam Johnson, Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic next to him. And then Denver did a full swap where Jokic goes out at the 3-minute mark along with Aaron Gordon and Cam Johnson and Christian Braun. And then Jamal Murray comes in. He comes back in to stagger with the second unit. You have Bruce Brown, you had Peyton Watson, and you had Jonas Valanciunas. And that was the lineup that they used for the rest of the first quarter. And then into the second, they added Julian Strawther in there for Tim Hardaway Jr., who was the first guy to come in and sub. An interesting look. And if you look at Julian's rotation in that second quarter, played 2 minutes at small forward, then 2 minutes at shooting guard, then technically 2 minutes at point guard. I have him as the point guard in that case instead of Christian Braun. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe I should just keep Christian as the point guard if he's playing with Tim Hardaway or with Julian Strawther. You guys let me know down in the comments what you think. But just a lot of different interesting looks that Denver was able to use with that bench unit. Peyton Watson looked really good. Jonas Valanciunas looked really good. Those guys look so good, in fact, Then when it was time for Jokic to come back in, he had a nice 7-minute rest from 3 minutes left in the first, missed the first 4 minutes of the second, so you get 7 minutes there. So he came back in at power forward, and the Nuggets were able to get to the Jokic plus Valanciunas lineup, which I think is very fascinating. There's a lot of interesting pieces there. I like the personnel that they had around that lineup as well. There are like other ways that they could do it. Obviously, they could do it with more starters, but they only had Christian Braun out there next to Jokic and Valanciunas among the starters. And in addition to that, they had Peyton Watson for defense, and they had Julian Strawther for a little bit more creation and spacing, and somebody who's already 6'7". So the smallest guy you had on the floor for Denver was 6'7", and Julian Strawther. And Peyton Watson's got the length and athleticism. Christian Braun, same thing. And so you are able, in a defensive lineup, in a situation where the Nuggets are, where they're trying to figure out how to survive defensively with Jokic and Valanciunas out there, you had a whole bunch of rangy players that could stay on the perimeter. Obviously, Strawther would be a target in some of those guys, and if you wanted to sub him out for Cam Johnson, if you wanted to sub him out for Jamal Murray, be my guest. Bruce Brown even. Like, they could absolutely make that happen. But it was just interesting, and it's nice to see different groups that Denver could go to. And then when they kind of subbed that back in and then subbed Cam Johnson and Aaron Gordon back in, Jamal Murray got a long rest. It was interesting. I liked the way that they handled it and thought that it was nice to see him at least get a little bit of a first half break. Like, if this was a regular season game, then you take advantage of the fact that Tim Hardaway Jr. is giving you good minutes, even if he's not shooting that well. I liked what they did. And you also went without Jamal Murray or a point guard in, for the vast majority of that second quarter, the middle of that second quarter. I thought that was just very interesting, very fascinating kind of way to handle it. And seeing them get to this group shows and highlights to me that there are so many different ways that the Nuggets can win. There's so many different ways that they can play. They have versatility. They can go big. They can go small. They can play with more rangy defenders. They can play with more shooters. Having optionality matters. And it was just a really indicative performance of that, in my opinion, against a team in the Clippers that, look, there's an actual credible argument that they're the fifth best team in the NBA or somewhere close to it. I think you'd probably have the Nuggets and the Thunder at the top. Thunder probably 1, Nuggets 2. You have the Cavs 3. You have maybe the Knicks 4 and the Clippers 5. That's a tough team over there. They are good. And Denver showed that despite the fact that they have a whole bunch of different new elements to them, there are ways that they can approach it, different things that they're obviously going to try throughout a season. The Jokic Valanciunas group offensively, it only scored 4 points in 5 possessions. It was 1 Jokic basket and then 1 Peyton Watson basket in transition. There are ways that they can get better in that situation. I think JV missed an open 3, which whether they get to or not consistently remains to be seen. I wouldn't personally go that direction. Strawther missed a layup at the rim, and I don't remember what the other possession was, if I'm being honest, but that lineup looks like a winner. It does look like something that Denver can at least go to, if not against the Clippers on a consistent basis, then against teams like, hey, Chicago. What is Chicago going to do with that group? They don't have the size or the physicality to handle Jokic, let alone Jokic and Valanciunas at the same time. So if you can use it as a curveball for teams to really throw them off their game, why not? Why not try to get to it? It is a good idea. It's not something that I think is going to be extremely playoff viable, but it doesn't need to be. It's preseason. They're worried about the regular season. So good stuff from Denver, especially in that first half. I thought that was a rotation that was indicative of a preseason, of a regular season rotation, very close to a dress rehearsal. And there was just a lot to like about it. So I'm pretty impressed with how they handled themselves. And I think that Denver well on their way to being ready for the regular season. When we come back, I want to talk about 3-point volume. Denver shot 42 threes, and I think it matters. We're going to talk about it next here on Pickaxe and Roll. This podcast is brought to you by Delete Me. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone feel vulnerable. Data brokers, they profit off of your data. It's a commodity. Anyone on the web can buy your private details. This can lead to identity theft, phishing attempts, and harassment. Have you ever been the victim of identity theft, harassment, doxing? If you haven't, you probably know someone who has. Delete Me can help. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to deleteme.com/hit and use promo code HIT at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/HIT and enter code HIT at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/HIT, code HIT. All right, we are back. Pickaxe and Roll, Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it, folks. It would be nice to get a couple of new positive reviews on the Pickaxe and Roll side of things. Always appreciate when those come through on the audio side. So make sure if you're listening on the audio side right now, hit that 5-star review. That would be great. Okay. The Nuggets had 28 and 29 3-point attempts in the first 2 games of the preseason. And why that matters to me is like only 7 other preseason performances among all teams in the preseason. There are about 87 games that I saw in the box score. Denver's a little bit ahead of some teams in preseason, but other teams will be catching up here real quick. Only 7 other total games of 7 other total box scores featured a team that attempted fewer than 33s. So Denver's kind of on an island with the way that they don't get up 3-point attempts. And we saw this as a problem last year. They were still second in the NBA in offensive rating, but I just think it made them too narrowly focused and a team that had very specific flaws that were not able to be addressed even in a playoff environment where Denver's just trying to pound the paint, force feed the paint, and they didn't really have a counter. Now, like if you get more than 33s on a consistent basis, then at least other teams have to respect that. And I do think that matters. Last night, they attempted 42 threes. And like not all of them were the starters or the bench guys in primary minutes. Like Curtis Jones had 6 threes in 7 minutes last night. Made 3 of them. Looked good, Curtis Jones. Like he looked like a shooter. He looked like a true floor spacer, a guard that can pull up from anywhere. And that's an encouraging sign. At least, hey, file that away as something that, as long as he continues to develop the right way, maybe he becomes a full-time roster guy at some point. That would be cool. But they had 42 threes as a team. Cam Johnson had 7 in 22 minutes. Aaron Gordon had 5 in 22. Jamal Murray and Christian Braun each had 4 in 22 minutes. Tim Hardaway had 4 in 18 minutes. And so, like, Jokic had a couple at the beginning of the game. There are definitely some things that he's trying to iron out with his game too. But I just was really impressed with the manner that they generated those shots. These are open shots. These are not like bad attempts. These are shots that Denver utilized and was able to generate within the flow of their offense, moving on the perimeter, getting into the paint, kicking out to the weak side corner, things like that, swinging the ball over to the opposite side when the defense overloaded. There's a lot of reasons to like the manner at which Denver was able to create open shots. Jokic in particular just continues to really emphasize that whenever anybody like whenever he's seeing two people in the paint, unless it's like right at the rim, in which case he's probably going up anyway, he's kicking out. He is reading the floor. He's finding the open guy and he's making the right decision. Uh, I thought that Christian had a really nice play a couple of times. He had 3 assists last night. Murray had 3 assists. He probably could have had more. Aaron Gordon had a couple assists. One was a nice dump off to Jokic. Denver's a team only had 23. There are definitely some not concerns, but like they might not be a team that goes for 30 plus assists on a consistent basis, despite the fact that they have really good passers. Last year, they were very assist heavy because they had to be. This year, as long as they have the right matchup, there are guys like Cam Johnson and Christian Braun and Aaron Gordon that can consistently create with the ball in their hands. And if other teams are too tied to those other guys and then focused on their 3-point shooting, focused on their rim gravity, then it makes it easier for the current ball handlers at that point to have success. So I just liked that Denver emphasized the 3-point shooting last night. I think that that's an important skill to have for Denver, especially for a team like we talked about. They're 30th in the NBA in attempts and frequency and actual kind of gravity like that, things like that. It definitely felt like they made the threes that they attempted. They were very choosy. They were very picky. I don't think that they can be as picky this year. I think that that's one of those things that they learned from the Thunder matchup, from the way that the Clippers even defended them, that they just have to find more opportunities to develop those shots naturally. Because if you can generate threes naturally without having to force it, it just makes the Nuggets more versatile. Opposing teams cannot pack the paint the way that they would want to. And then you have guys like Jokic and Valanciunas that are getting one-on-ones as opposed to one-on-threes. That is super, super important to me. Whether it actually happens throughout the regular season or not, that remains to be seen. But I do think that there is, at least in my opinion, there's something to the fact that Tim Hardaway Jr. has been the 6th man in 2 of the 3 games. The first game, he was the first guy off the bench. Second game, I believe it was Bruce Brown who was the first player. It was Bruce Brown and Peyton Watson, I think. But to me, that matters. And I think that David Adelman also understands how important the 3-point shooting is and the spacing is. Because, like, look, Tim Hardaway hasn't shot the ball well. I think he's 0 for 4 in this game. Like, he got up 4 attempts in 18 minutes, did some other good things, had two assists. He had 1 steal on James Harden, did a really nice job defensively while he was out there. But he only had 1 point. He even missed a free throw. Like, Tim Hardaway is not really playing that great right now from an offensive perspective, still struggling to kind of find his fit. I just don't think it matters as much because when he's out there, the Nuggets should be able to keep generating those outside looks on a consistent basis. I also think that when Christian Braun's attempting 4 threes in 23 minutes and taking them without hesitation, that matters to me. That matters, I think, to a lot of people, where you're really starting to show intensity there. You're really and a consistent, not intensity. That's not what I'm trying to say. You're starting to show how dangerous you are from that spot, and that if teams are going to leave you open, you're going to shoot. And he's been making them all. He's 3 of 4 again in this last game was Christian Braun. So I do think that Denver's providing a little bit more of an emphasis this year on capable 3-point shooting. And just another FanDuel blurb. According to FanDuel, Tim Hardaway Jr. is plus 10,000 to win 6th man of the year. I do not think that he's going to be the overall, like, all-encompassing impact guy or anything like that. But it does seem like, okay, Bruce Brown's got better odds. I don't know if Peyton Watson has better odds. I actually didn't see it. But it does feel to me like Tim Hardaway's kind of being underrated, given that he was the first guy off the bench over the course of 2 of those 3 preseason games. And I think that that's going to matter. Also kind of interesting for him to be the non-point guard in those non-Murray lineups, where Murray rests and then you get a stagger after that. Tim Hardaway was the guy that was out there, and they moved Christian Braun to the point, as opposed to somebody like a Bruce Brown. SS asks, thoughts on Tim Hardaway Jr. being first off the bench over Bruce? It's interesting. Like, I kind of expected Bruce to more or less reprise his role with what he had towards the end of his Denver stint. But to me, it seems like, at least at the outset, we don't actually know. I'm not going to pretend like I actually know how this is going to go. A lot of it's going to be like, okay, how are you playing? How are you helping? Which lineups are you actually contributing to? Things like that. I just think David Adelman understands the value of shooting, understands the value of just having another guy that can draw the defense away from the middle of the floor, whether that is the Jokic lineups, whether that's Aaron Gordon cutting, whether that's all of the action that the Nuggets would like to run under. Like, Tim Hardaway, I believe he had 3 assists in the last game, if not the game before. He can see the floor. Like, he had 2 assists in 18 minutes in this game. He's not going to be a high volume assist guy or anything like that. But if there's an opportunity, he's going to do it. He's going to put the ball on Valanciunas, for example, or he's going to swing the ball to the right guy on the weak side. He does have a quick trigger, but that is, I think, a good thing in today's NBA, where if you overemphasize Bruce Brown, you do get some of the good skills that he has. You get some of the off-ball playmaking. You get the defense. You get just the overall level of physicality, maybe some better switchability in some different lineups. But I do think that for Tim Hardaway, I don't know. It's also like one of the things about Tim being first off of the bench was that it actually allowed Denver to go with Julian Strawther in the second quarter, and then in the fourth quarter in each of those lineups, as opposed to Tim Hardaway, who got the first and third quarter minutes for the shooting guard spot, the off-ball guard spot when he came in. Thought that was interesting. It might be a way for them to just get Tim Hardaway and Julian Strawther on the floor during the games, because I kind of think that a lot of what this is going to end up being is, like, you see the 10-man rotation if you're looking on screen right now. You've got the 5 starters. You've got Murray, Brown, Johnson, Gordon, Jokic. Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway, Peyton Watson, and Jonas Valanciunas were the primary bench initially, and then Tim Hardaway got a rest, and Julian Strawther came in for him. It was like a quick 5 or 6 minute stint on both sections, and it allowed Denver to get to a 10-man rotation. It also would have allowed Tim Hardaway to come back into the game. What I will say that I'm not necessarily a fan of this rotation of is the gap that Murray had in the second quarter. That was a 7-minute rest that he had. I don't know if you can do that in the fourth quarter, or maybe you can. Maybe there's an opportunity to do it, but I'm not sure David Adelman's going to be super enthused with something like that. And the only way that you're getting Tim Hardaway that long of a stretch is if you are taking one of Murray or Brown off the floor in those particular lineups. So something to consider for sure. There are probably ways that Denver can handle it a little bit better. I wonder if maybe one of the ways is for one of Cam Johnson or Aaron Gordon to also rest. And maybe there's a lineup where Denver goes with 3 guards, where it's Murray, it's Tim Hardaway, and it's Christian Braun, and then Cam Johnson's getting a break or something like that. But it is interesting. I just like that they're trying different things for sure. And using, what happened to this window? Has this been like this the entire time, guys? I think somebody messed with my window. I have to have a sternly worded letter to management. I didn't even notice that. Anyway, I think that Denver is in a good place. I think that Denver overall, that we've got a massive beeping over there, whatever. Denver's in a good place. They look ready. There's a lot of things to be excited about. I'm very impressed with the way that they handled themselves on Wednesday. Or not Wednesday, for the third game of the season. I assume Wednesday is the third day. Now I'm rattled. 2 more games for the Nuggets to play. They have one on Tuesday. That is a home game against the Chicago Bulls. And then they go on the road on Friday and play a preseason finale against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm just going to get out ahead of this one. They are not going to play anybody in that game. If they do, I will be shocked. I will be shocked if they play anybody in that game. I think this one was a better approximation of like really intense play. I don't think that they needed to, like, do they need to show what they can do kind of playing into the fourth quarter? Do they need to play long preseason stints into the third quarter in order to show it? I don't think so. I think what they've showed already is good enough. And a lot of times Michael Malone would go with like 27 to 28 minutes, 30 minutes for the starters in the final preseason game, or pretty close to it, just to get them ready. I think they're ready. I don't think that they have to do that. In all likelihood, over the course of these final 2 games, I think you are probably going to see Murray get a break in certainly the last game, maybe even this next one. And then Jokic, he might get both of those days off. It would not surprise me in the slightest. Christian Braun hasn't gotten a break yet. Cam Johnson hasn't gotten a break yet. Those guys will get at least some rest, certainly in the Friday game, but if not that one, then in the Tuesday game as well. Let me know down in the comments what you think they still need to work on. What are some things that you are looking for in the final 2 preseason games? I don't have any major concerns anymore. They took care of what I mostly wanted to see. I've liked what I saw from Peyton Watson, who I didn't mention enough in today's show. He looks like a player. He looks like a guy that can be a spot starter for Denver when they need him to be, like he was last year. Christian Braun looks unbelievable. Jamal Murray looked good despite the fact that he didn't have great individual numbers in this last game. I just keep thinking the way that he's playing and the way that he's comporting himself is the right way, and good numbers will follow him through that. So good to see. Very excited for what's in store for the Nuggets. Let me know down in the comments what you think. But for now, that is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends here at Mile High Sports and FanDuel. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. I'll have another show on Wednesday I'll do Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. That's for this upcoming week, because Denver has a preseason game on Tuesday nights. I will react on Wednesday morning. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one. I'll talk to you guys very soon.